Hello?
Okay, are you able to hear me now?
Yes, sir.
So all good?
All good, sir. Now we both are live.
We both are live. अच्छा ये
Yes.
हम लोग रिकॉर्ड कर सकते हैं आदिति कि नहीं?
Sir, it will be recorded. At the end, the media will be saved.
Very good. तो वो मेरे को बाद में जरा भेज देना. In what format you can send it to me? It will stay on Instagram.
Yes, sir. It will stay on the Instagram.
ठीक है, good. Yeah, sometimes some people miss it, then they can view it later, right?
Yes, yes.
So yeah, I got your message about the book. It's right here. I'll make sure I show the book. Anything more you need to tell me?
No, sir. Sir, just tell me when to start. It's, I think, almost 7:30.
It is time. I think we should start.
Okay,
मुझे
okay.
एक चीज बताओ. See, in order to keep hands free, I have to keep this in a holder here.
Yes,
When I
sir.
when I keep it here, can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. So let's start. All the best.
Okay, sir. So,
ठीक है जी.
good evening and good morning to all the viewers. As sir is in Toronto, Canada, so good morning to all the viewers of there. Let me introduce the speaker of today, the author of the book, The Accuracy of 10 W's. So, about Sunil sir. Sunil sir is a leading classical homeopathic practitioner and teacher from Indus. Dr. Anand conducts his clinical practice from Mumbai, Pune and Ahmedabad. Having practiced homeopathy for the past 30 years, he is specially recognized for his cures in pediatric cases. His seminars and workshops have been widely attended in India and other countries. Having graduated from the CMT Homeopathic Medical College, Mumbai, he then has pursued his post-graduation from the Hahnemann Postgraduate Institute of Homeopathy, UK. Now sir is based in Toronto with his wife Alka ma'am, where they own the facility Amara Wellness. Now sir's work experience includes he had been a senior lecturer at CMP Homeopathic Medical College, Mumbai, an honorary associate professor in DS Homeopathic College, Pune, from 1999 to 2008, a founder trustee of Homeopathic Research and Charities, Mumbai, from 1995 to 2010. A Dean Postgraduate Studies, sir has done from Vancouver Homeopathic Academy, Canada. President of Prana, which is the Homeopathy Yoga Center in Pune, India. Sir has been a teacher, faculty teacher at OCHN, Ontario, Canada, which is the Ontario College of Homeopathic Medicine. Also, sir has been a visiting faculty teacher in Northwestern Academy of Homeopathy, Minneapolis, USA. Also, a visiting faculty teacher at the Adasom Academy, Murata, India. So the Prana which sir has, which is the Homeopathic Yoga Center in Pune, this setup has helped to facilitate teaching and treating patients requiring both the disciplines of homeopathy and yoga at a local, state and international level. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you, Ji.
Sir, now today this interaction of Instagram is for the discussion of the book which Bijan has recently launched. So kindly tell us about the book.
Yeah, firstly, I love the cover, and so that's what the book looks like. So it's my first book. I've written several articles, presented papers, and been on podiums for seminars. But a book is special, so this is special to me. Bijan was very responsive in selection of the right title for the book cover, the little things they looked into. I was very impressed by that. So about this book, basically, for those of you who have it, or those of you I hope plan to get a copy, just in a nutshell, if I had to tell you that it's It's about 300 pages, so not very extensive. And there's an introduction, and then there's chapter that the initial chapters are about the concept of objective and subjective homeopathy. We can talk about this a little later. Then there's the outpatient departments, as Aditi mentioned. You know, I've been affiliated with several institutes, teaching institutes, so that's something I enjoy and I'm very interested in. So, how to manage outpatient departments for acute, chronic cases. I was lucky enough to be given the opportunity to do that in the first homeopathic college that I joined by Dr. B. Patel. I'm very grateful for that. And then in the book, there's the following chapters are about the acute exacerbation of the chronic. So, like even in the acute, how you can see it's like an overview, and if you examine it very, very carefully, you will see it's not really an acute, it's often a flare up of something chronic that already existed. So, there are cases to highlight that. There's the concept of parental state and mother's history in pregnancy and the importance of the same. And then, of course, there's the concept of Bonninghausen's 7 Ws and then the 10 Ws, which the book is basically targeted towards accuracy and also quality of work and quick prescribing in an emergency.
Okay.
Then, of course, there's the concept of drug remedies, drug proving, and finally, there's a chapter devoted to mentors who in my journey have been responsible for my evolution. So that's what the basic infrastructure of the book is about.
Okay. So I wanted to ask a question that how did you come up with the book? I mean, what was the planning? What was the thought behind it? What was the inspiration? Who were the inspiration?
Right. Several Aditi. So, being a teacher, I was introduced to several books. We came from a modest middle class family, and though we always had what we needed, there wasn't the luxury of indulgence. However, one thing that my dad always impressed and encouraged us is to read books, you know, whether it's to get them from libraries, to just he would pass on books, and there'd be several books on the at home. So that this concept of, and then of course he's a established author himself. My mother has written a book. She's no more now, but she wrote 2 books before she passed on. So this inspiration was always there to write a book of my own. I guess it's a family thing, right? And then being a teacher, I was able to teach these ideas and concepts, and then the students and even many of my friends, colleagues always said that, Sunil, you need to write a book. But I wasn't ready because there were so many good books, and there still are in homeopathy, and I wasn't sure that am I just doing this for the sake as a formality. I didn't want to do that. And then at some point, I realized that a book is not just about teaching a method, it's also about your patients, because this is a book on medicine. So I know some of these patients are probably even listening to this Instagram live. And I wanted a book that would be simplified enough to not only be a teaching model for homeopaths and students, but also for my patients who have battled and suffered certain illnesses, and they have grown out of it. I have learned so much from them. So I thought in some way this book, it should be a book which inspires them, and a book where others can learn from their journey as well. So these thoughts were in my mind. And then what happened was that we had been taught about in philosophy and in homeopathy several subjects, and one of them was the 7 Ws by Bonninghausen. And I remember being impressed by it, but as a student, as you know, there's so much to learn, so much to do. It's somewhere it remained in the background. And then interestingly, when I was traveling from by Deccan Queen, Bombay to Pune, we just shifted from Bombay to Pune city. And I used to do this journey, and there was someone beside me who was reading a book, Just in Time by Taichi Ono. And I had never heard about this book. I never heard about this man. So this is again something my dad has always encouraged me that pay attention to what people do, how they behave, what they read, what are their mannerisms. So I just started chatting with this stranger, and I realized he was a Tata employee with Tata Motors. And they then I gathered that just in time is followed by many auto industry people, and it's like a it's a guru on how to handle time efficiently. And in that 3 hour journey, I said, can I just have a look at the book? And I looked at it and I saw why analysis. And it was very interesting. And he broke it up to me and he said, if you keep asking the question why, you come to the root of a problem. Now, this is what struck to me, and I remained in touch with this fine gentleman. But that is when I again picked up the book and started looking at Bonninghausen, and I saw that why, of course, is important, but there are so many other W's that we need to examine, not just as a homeopath, but in life in general. If we put this question of these W's, you get to know so much about a subject, about a person, about a relationship, about business. And that's when the concept of the 10 W's being applied to corporate wellness first started, even before the book really happened. And at Bajaj Auto, we started a concept called brand pill. And we started talking about these W's and how they can apply to corporate wellness and increase productivity. That's when I thought it's time now. This, of course, is something, this concept has been introduced in the book at some point when I talk about 10 W's. There's just a brief reference. Hopefully another book will come about it someday later. But that's when I started thinking about why not just limit myself and share these thoughts with young homeopaths and my colleagues and see how this can help to increase accuracy in practice. So this is really the background.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you so much, sir. Also, sir, what were the difficulties that you faced, or the atrocities that you faced, or the references that you took, and how much time did you take to draft the book and finally give it for publication?
Yeah. See, difficulties, if any, I mean, when you're passionate about something, and I'm very passionate about what I do and about homeopathy, though that's not my life, but it's a very important integral part of my life. So there wasn't much difficulty in that sense, because these are all ideas dear to me. However, yes, there were difficulties in the sense of time. I mean, in India, how busy our practice is, and to write a book, I'm sometimes amazed how people like Dr. Farooq Master, who I admire a lot, can write so many books, or Dr. Shankaran, or some European authors here too. So time was a big difficulty. It was a challenge. Sharing the right kind of time with family, which is also a priority, and my other interests, which I have many, which I've mentioned in the book, and yet coming up with a book with quality was a challenge. But the other than this, the challenge was to simplify. It's like reductionism. When you're cooking, you reduce something till it becomes a thick sauce or a gravy, but it takes time. It doesn't happen just like that. You have to spend some time with it. You have to care for it. So the biggest difficulty was to simplify something that is complicated to a level where people can relate to it, even the layman. And so many of my patients, several of which have purchased copies of this book, this for me was the biggest difficulty. That's why it took a little while. But once we moved to Canada, there was more luxury of time at my hand, and I could apply myself and simplify it to to a large extent where I feel it would be acceptable and readable by different people from different audiences.
Okay. Okay. And okay, sir. Sir, I also would like to ask you, ki, how is this book different? Like you also said that we have so many books on organon and philosophy and case taking in our fraternity. But how is this book different? How does it have a different outlook towards homeopathy?
Huh, huh. In what way it is different? See, firstly, it has examples of live cases from the seminars that I have given in India and all over the world. In that sense, that's one difference as I can see it. The other difference is if you look at it from the angle of a lawyer, a lawyer makes preemptive moves so that his client doesn't get into trouble. The same way, the concept of this book is like we know clinical disease, and there are several excellent books on clinical disease, but we often forget the concept of subclinical disease, which is subclinical signs and symptoms. This book tends to highlight on that concept, which is try to get to the root of the problem much before an actual pathology gets diagnosed. This is a very important aspect of this book, which I've tried to highlight, that, for example, for homeopaths who may be attending this Insta Live, it is easier to prescribe CPR when already the cloasma is seen.
Yeah.
But are we able to prescribe CPR for a small child? And if not, what do we need to know to understand childhood states and childhood glimpses of remedies which are easily seen as adults or more easily seen as adults, but not so much as children? So I've tried to create certain models in that where people can get glimpses of the importance of understanding childhood states and going about it in a very effortless way, without much effort, without much pressure on the patient, just things like observations, doodles, drawings, dreams, interests and hobbies, and through that getting to the root of the problem in a very friendly way, without too much of the patient feeling intimidated. I see these as the uniqueness or niche of this book.
Okay, okay, sir. Sir, when I was reading the book, I was going through the book, so my question was that we have 7 Ws of Bonning-Wasson. What are the other 3 Ws of that you have incorporated here? So, I want you to discuss these.
Yes. So for that, let's just one.
Yes, yes.
Firstly, let's spend some time with Bonning-Wasson himself, because I owe this to him and for this inspiration to write this book. And now if you see his journey, most people know Hahnemann, they know Kent, or they know the style of the Kent's repertory, but unfortunately, the Bonning-Wasson's pocketbook, even though BJN has published it, very few use it.
Yes.
To understand the man, he was not just a homeopath, but a medical person, but he was also a lawyer. He was a botanical taxonomist.
Yes.
So you can see how wide ranged he was even before he delved into the world of homeopathy. And so this is brilliant what he has achieved. His concept of 7 Ws, very interestingly, came up as the homeopaths who are present, I'd say read the essay of Bonning-Wasson, which is concerning the characteristic value of symptoms. So we are talking of the 12th century, where he was inspired by something from the 12th century. And in the word of theology of the church, many monks used to use these 7 Ws to judge moral disease like the moral makeup or character of a person, of an individual, and then accordingly what kind of help he or she needs. From that, he got inspired to write about the 7 Ws, which is basically who, what, where, what else, why, what modifies, and when. So we look at each one of these. For example, so before I come to my 3 Ws, which makes it 10 Ws, Aditi, I think it's time to very briefly spend some time and maybe with a few quick cases for each of these Ws. Then the 3 Ws later will make more sense to understand, right?
Yes, yes.
So, for example, who is the patient? Now, this is not just for a homeopath. You know, we go to social functions, we meet people, but often we don't have the ears to be attentive enough to spend time with the person, to understand who the person is, where is he coming from. We are just keen to say what we want to say. It's like, you know, what we've already rehearsed. We are going to this kind of a party, and this is what I have to say, or this image that I have to create about myself. You have the dinner and or the drinks, and then you're out of it. And this is sad because we don't look at this as a learning experience, a learning curve. When we meet people, there's so much energy there, and all these people who are present there, they have their own life, their own journeys. So when we spend time, it's like, I mean, you ask someone, so tell me about yourself, and he says, well, I'm an engineer, I'm a software engineer, you know, I'm a hiker. That's it. I mean, beyond that, we don't ask what made you a hiker, why did you change professions. You know, if you ask these Ws, even in a social gathering, you will see that life is so much more fun and interesting. There's so much we can learn from the person we interact with. It's the same while taking the case. So I remember one recent case. See, of the homeopaths who are present are familiar with the homeopathic remedy petroleum. So, or crude petrol. You know, petroleum cruda. Now, several years ago, I did this is the petroleum raffinatum or benzene petroleum. The proving of this is mentioned in the book. It's one chapter. And I've also mentioned case of a father and son who needed the same remedy. And so how you see it in a child, a pediatric case, and also in the adult case. Now, another case where recently here in the West in Canada that I prescribed this remedy petroleum raffinatum for, he came up with a very strong expression in the process of his case taking, where he said that if not for my family, Sunil, I could have been a drug dealer. Now, this is a very strong expression to make. He said it very lightly, but in that you understand that in the this is where it differentiates from crude petrol, and you're talking of a refined substance like petroleum raffinatum, where there's the concept of gasoline sniffing. It's used as a psychedelic substance. The need for psychedelic escape mechanisms and acceleration in life and high ambition, the expression comes from there. So when you understand who is the patient, just from this one expression, it's like an entry point that takes you to deeper elements of the case. Okay, so that's about the who. It also gives you a hint of the miasm to some extent. You know, in what way is he viewing his or her life? When you come to what, it's like you're trying to see what is the distinguishing trait between medicine and disease that will be specific for this particular patient. I remember in the book there is a case, it was a live seminar in Munich, and this was a very sweet child who had celiac disease. And he would get very acute pain, and he would cry with pain. He was in a lot of distress, and very characteristically and interestingly enough, whenever he would be in pain, he would want to run out in the lawn, even if it was cold and with ice, because they lived in Germany. And as he would run, and his feet would get cold, he would feel the coldness seeping in from the feet to his stomach, and his stomach pain would get less. Now, I remember this case, I was very young then, this is several years ago, and it was in Germany. It was being translated to me in English, but the translators were homeopaths, so it was excellent translation. And by that point, my interaction with this boy and the father's history was taking me to the remedy elapse. As you know, that's the coral snake, right? So the venoms are used in diluted forms. So toxic things become elixirs in homeopathy, and in high dilution, so very safe to use. But I didn't know where to fit this rubric in. And interestingly, when I referred to the repertory and when I saw stomach pain ameliorated by walking, very few remedies, and one of them is elapse. And then when I see that, when something cold goes into the stomach and it's set, you can feel the coldness right from the lips right up to the stomach. Here it was the reverse symptom. This is what Bonninghausen did. He generalized. So the ability to generalize that from the foot to the stomach, the coldness settles in and the patient feels better. And then he had several other factors which you will see in the book when you read. Just understanding what was the problem or what was the effect of the complaint on that child got me to the remedy elapse, right? Now, when you come to where, so I've already mentioned about sepia and cloasma. I remember one case of, it was a case of vein problem, perforation, young girl. So almost like a varicose vein kind of situation. And she was very sensitive as a person. But when she would talk and when she had to escape from her pain was at a high level, she would sit in her room and listen to loud music on her headphones, and mostly rock music, music that just would make her escape from her pain. This ability to escape, and when she went to a rock show, the way she described it, for me was very much like the cannabis family, the cannabis indica family. And very interestingly, she's very sensitive. She wants people to be respected. She wants to be respected when she says something to her friends and family. And I found this in the remedy Homeomalis. So Homeomalis is from the Homeomality family, which is from the cannabis family. And this remedy played a huge role in taking care of her perforated vein issue. So understanding where is the problem, and from that extending it to deeper understanding, is what you learn from that W, where. Then what else? So the concomitant symptoms, the accessory symptoms. Sometimes in homeopathy we overlook this. We look at the main chief complaint, but the accessory symptom, as you know, is so much more important. And I remember a case of ADHD, and the parent, the young girl, she was only 15 when she saw me. She had ADHD, dyslexia. The mother was very concerned. How will she get through her grades? So there was emphasis spent on that, enough time on that. But what was striking as a concomitant symptom was she had a very peculiar backache. And in this backache, when I said, what's the experience? Please describe this backache to me. The expression she used is, it's almost as if I have to carry my entire home or my entire load on my back. Now, from that, the inquiry went into deeper things, and she started talking about spirals, and she did doodles, and she was very dependent on her mother. She'd even carried her. She'd traveled from Bombay to Pune to study and go to a boarding school in Pune. That's when the case was referred to me. And she even carried her pillow from Bombay to Pune. She was so used to this specific pillow, so no other pillows would work. She wanted her own bed. She wanted her own pillow. So it's a very Calcarea carp kind of case at one level. But when you go deeper into the case, and this expression of I'm carrying the load on my back, and the spirals that she drew, she actually started talking of the source word which she needs just because of this concomitant exploration, and it took us to the remedy snail, which is Helix tosta, which is from the same mollusk Calcarea families, Calcarea, sepia, octopus. And she was given Helix tosta, and this helped her not just with her ADHD and dyslexia, but it also helped her with her backache, you know. So this was the fourth W. What else? Now, when you look at why, never well since. So, you know, toxic drugs, vaccines. With COVID-19, you know, we've not that I'm an advocate or not an advocate of vaccines. That's not the point. But the point is, we've seen, you know, some people have reacted very adversely to the COVID-19 vaccines, and from that, we understand the concept of never well since, like Carbovex, never well since that typhoid, or never well since that particular vaccine. This kind of information is very important when you take the case thoroughly, and we've seen in cases of autism, for example, how important this W can become. So point I'm trying to get at is, it's not that we have to necessarily examine all the 10 Ws in every case. Sometimes just one or two can be like an entry point, and one or two others out of that, which comes not mechanically, but as the flow of the case is proceeding, helps to clinch the case. So this was the fifth one, why. Then the sixth one is what modifies. So, you know, food, weather, thermal state, sides, you know, sometimes, you know, just conjunctivitis and right-sidedness and great edema and puffiness is enough to prescribe the remedy apis in homeopathy. So that's the modalities that become so important. And then when, the time, the onset, you know, we know the 3 to 4 a.m. aggravation of Kalika, for example. So if you give importance to this, and also if you see the timeline, you know, onset, duration and progress of the case, it tells you not only about the miasm, but often about the remedy as well. Now, when we come to the 3 Ws remaining, which makes it the 10 Ws, in this, it's basically the first one is watch out. You know, watch out for subjective signs and symptoms. You know, what you observe in a case, the gestures, the body language, the energy in the case, the doodles, you know, based on the, even casually or based on the chief complaint that the patient has. I remember one case of Drosera that's in the book. So just with describing her pain of her migraine and her acute stomach pain, this case of very severe asthma and suffering from the after effects of osteomyelitis, for which she'd been given very strong antibiotics and antipox treatment, which had left her stomach in a mess. And how just describing and drawing it, she said, can I just draw it and show you? I'd be able to do it better. I said, wow, I love that. Yes, please do it. And from that drawing, and this case is present in the book, she just drew the sundew, the Drosera, you know, and the whole theme of the carnivorous plant, and how she looks at things where people, you know, they trap you and then you can't escape, very much like the insect that's trapped in the carnivorous plant. So this was the number 8, the watch out. Number 9 is which kingdom. You know, if you pay enough attention to a case and you ask yourself which kingdom and sub kingdom, whether, you know, once you're sure it's a plant kingdom, mineral kingdom, animal kingdom, or is it a nosode, sarcode, or imponderables like magnet, electricity, etc., which are remedies in homeopathy, as you know. Then there's a book, there is a case of uranium nitricum in the case, and that specifically the patient talks of source words and explosions and, you know, demons that throw arrows that make people explode, and how the theme of explosion and the actinides and the row 7, which is the actinide row, and the theme of uranium nitricum comes up in that case. The last one is what intensity. So the intensity is basically the pace of the disease. You know, if the pace of the disease is slow and you're trying to give a remedy like mercury, which is so fast paced, the chances are the remedy is not going to respond. You have to prescribe a remedy which matches the pace and intensity of the patient. So the last 10th one is, if you understand the intensity, there is more miasmatic clarity. So if you do this is possible to be done in acute cases and also in chronic cases. The chances of accuracy will be much higher in practice. That's what I wanted to impress through these extra 3 dumbbells.
Okay, thank you, sir. Sir, means we as students means they feel there is sometimes difficulty in case taking. Like we take on the case starting from the presenting complaints chronologically presented and all the past history, family history, personal history, then also the mental history. So, sir, what is your, how do you proceed while case taking, and what are the tips you can give us for case taking? And means how the analysis of the case you do, and what's the easy way? How to come to
Yeah, that's mentioned in the book. Let me take you here. So, see, this is a lot of what I do. Now, if you see here, this is called the Children Corner. So there's books for them. This has been designed by Alka, my wife, who has a lot of knowledge in homeopathy, and that's there in our clinics in India as well as here. So each one of this, now for example, let's look at one of these drawings. So this girl was very disengaged and didn't want to talk to me. She was upset actually why she had been brought here to me, and she didn't know much about homeopathy. Now, when you look at this, while she was sitting there, she was making this. And now this was her interest and hobbies. I think it's from the Game of Thrones. And when I started talking about that to her, I immediately got her attention, right? Now in that, if you see the emphasis on fire in particular, you see it here in orange, you see it in yellow, lightning. So the whole case, so it was a case of eczema. She had eczema. And it was not being controlled by the routine topical steroids. And thanks to this drawing, I could engage with her, and she started talking about fire and something that needs an outlet, and if it doesn't get an outlet, it chooses the outlet which it can find an outlet, and if it can't, it explodes and it erupts almost like volcanic lava. Now from this drawing, in this young teenager girl who was very disinterested in the whole session, I did not confront her, I did not judge her. I just took time in understanding her as a person, her personality type, and chose her interests and hobbies to get to her remedy. So from that diagram, the remedy Hekla lava came up so beautifully, which for the people who are not homeopaths and who may be present here, is the remedy prepared from Icelandic volcanic ash or lava itself, and is a very useful remedy in homeopathy when this kind of energy is presented. So this is my style of practice. I choose the path of least resistance and just make the process easy, enjoyable, and without intimidating the person too much, unless it's absolutely essential. There are certain techniques, like Carl Rogers talks about it. A patient is being very, very defiant and you have to confront. Sometimes that energy is required, but often not. So these are the some of the techniques that I use.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. And sir, what about the mental aspect? Means students, means we as students also think about it, how important it is to take the mental symptoms. Do we take in the acute? How much history should we take? how much emphasis should be given on a symptom, the past history, and all the traumas. Any elaboration on that?
See, this has been highlighted in the book, which is uh, go with the that is which you can explore most effortlessly. So if the patient starts talking about just getting a traffic ticket outside your clinic, and you know that, I mean, I've come here for an appointment, I just got a ticket outside. Don't think look at that as something unnecessary. Use that itself even before you talk about the medical complaint. This would be my advice to all of you, and to other young homeopaths. Use that as an example to understand the patient through the fact that there was a traffic violation, or he felt he was given a ticket without justification, and what was his experience on that will tell you so much more about the patient, rather than trying to drag it into his medical history too premature. So if you do that, through that you understand, you will see that the same pattern, if the patient sits down and talks to you for almost 2 hours, what he told you right in the beginning about that traffic violation, and what he tells you when he feels that doctors are trying to exploit him and are trying to violate his body, or what he says that the cancer that is hitting his stomach is violating the insides of his stomach, you will see the same pattern behavior from the traffic ticket to the cancer violation. This is the pattern. If you can learn to track and just sit back and witness, be a silent witness. So more than going through a case pro forma where it's like a checklist, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, no. Just be a silent witness and just observe the phenomena. The chances are you will be able to reach the remedy more effortlessly.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I wanted to ask the what would be the what is the miasmatic approach? How do we take it? Because we hear people say that miasm is they don't indulge miasm in something, and the symptoms are seen of this miasm, but the medicine they give are of it covers a different miasm. So, any take on that?
See, the take on that, Aditi, is that in the earlier books, the concept of miasm was presented well, but differently, which is, I mean, when you look at a certain kind of phlegm or discharge, the look of the phlegm, the color of the phlegm, the smell of the phlegm, the look of the ulcer, these are important for sure. And it should be part of our learning as a homeopath. However, if you look at miasm as a linear progression, along with this, it is easier to catch the miasm. Which means if a patient says, the moment I heard cancer, that's it. I thought I'm going to die this very minute. The moment, so this is acute miasm, or miasms on the left side of the spectrum, you know. The moment the patient says this cancer oozes such dirty, offensive pus, nobody, even my grandchild, would not like to sit on my lap because the ulcer is oozing such an offensive pussy discharge, and it will leave me feeling so dirty and disgusted about myself. If the patient says this, then it is not acute miasm. You're going to the miasm on the right side of the spectrum, which is leprous miasm or syphilitic miasm, where the patient is feeling almost like a leper, like an outcast, that even the grandchild doesn't want to come and sit because the ulcer is offensive and dirty looking. So my advice to all of you would be is, if you pay attention to this aspect as well,
Okay.
the chances are you will get to miasm more accurately. After having said this, one last sentence about miasm I would say is what gets confusing, because recently a very good student asked me this question and said, sir, you have given this remedy on cancer miasm, but I see psychotic miasm in this particular case. Okay, it was a case of Piper methysticum, which is from the pepper family, and it's put in the cancer miasm, she was seeing more psychotic themes because the patient was also very rigid and fixed, like puja, which is the psychotic miasm. I could see her difficulty, but as I explained to her, and I am explaining to all of you, if you look at it as an evolution, all the miasms that are on the extreme right, so for that you need to know which are the miasms on the left, in the center, and going towards the right. The ones in the extreme right, like syphilitic, leprous, cancer, etc., will definitely have themes of miasms that precede it. Which means in a leprous miasm case, there will be themes of psychotic miasm as well. But however, the themes of the leprous miasm will be most prominent in the description of the patient. This needs to be kept in mind. Then there will be more clarity in selection.
Okay, sir. For me, it is difficult, miasm to understand. Okay, sir. Sir, can you hear me?
But what else? Should we leave? Should we keep some time? Are there some others asking questions? Are we looking at, would they like to ask something? Should we keep some time for that as well? Are there others who would like to ask something about the book, or just some general questions? Can you look at anything that people have requested?
Sir, I'm just going through the messages. One student has asked a journal question. He has asked, I am a beginner in homeopathy, and which book should I read?
Well, my book, of course, because it's, as I said, it's not just for advanced homeopaths, but it's also for beginners. Yeah. But I'd say, I mean, all the books that are taught in the syllabus in books, whether it is from our concept in India, Fataks, or Stuart Close, Allen's, Nash Therapeutics, these are books on materia medica, but don't spend enough time with books on repertories and also philosophy. Some books are gems, like even Hahnemann's letter to his tailor, for example. It's not just about learning homeopathy, it's also about what advice he gives his patients, or who happen to be his patient and tailor. If you just Google Hahnemann letter tailor, you will, there's not enough scope in this talk to go through that full letter, but what he conveys to his tailor through a letter, the time that he takes to reach out to his tailor and say why he is falling sick and what can he do. It's not just about medicine alone. It's also about lifestyle. It's also about silence. It's also about spending time with family. This kind of advice, such kind of book should also be read, even as a beginner, because it's the beginning that inspires you to look at homeopathy in a larger sense.
Okay. Sir, you told us about one book of Bonnie Gossam. I want to confirm its name. It's Essay of Bonnie Gossams. I didn't catch
The exact name. Let me.
Essay on Bonnie Gossam.
It is concerning the characteristic value of symptoms. It's an essay concerning the characteristic value of symptoms. Yeah.
Characteristic value of symptoms. Okay, sir. So you also told me to remind you about the discussion of you discussing about objective and subjective symptoms, which are mentioned in the book.
Yeah. So objective symptoms, patient comes with history, the doctors have given reports, there's pathology tests, the relatives are telling things about the patient's pathology. These all come under objective, but subjective is what is not told, or which the patient is got used to, doesn't think it's something peculiar. But you notice it. So it's not a symptom that's necessarily told, but it's what you observe. So this is very important to inculcate and to learn over the years as you grow as a homeopath. it will not, because it will help you in pre-verbal cases, children who are not even talking in pediatric practice, but how do you prescribe for them? So it's only if you learn that art of watching and observing. So there are certain pre-verbal cases in the book, like the case of lac defloratum for the severe case of impetigo contagiosa. So if you pay attention to these subjective signs and symptoms, the chances are your prescription will be more thorough and holistic.
Okay. So one of our viewer has asked, in your eyes, I mean through your eyes, what is the future of homeopathy?
In my eyes, what is the future of homeopathy?
I mean, what can you see as the future of homeopathy?
I would say the future is homeopathy. You see, let's take the recent COVID-19 situation, and we've realized that not only as a genus epidemicus, or the strength of homeopathy in averting, diluting the toxicity of such a virulent virus, the variants that are keeping on coming, it's still not over. The variants are still coming. So the future of any medicine lies in its ability to recognize mind and body connection in disease. So, and also, it's a medicine which is not just sterile or clinical or professional only. It is all that, but there's also an element of empathy, compassion, listening to a patient, sharing personal moments with them. In the process, you get to know the person and the family almost like a family doctor. So even though you may be a specialist in your own right as a homeopath, the fact is that over the years, the relationship develops to a different level. So these are so I see this as not what is the future of homeopathy. I would put that the answer to that question is the future is homeopathy.
Very well said, sir. Sir, also one question that which books to read for materia medica? Which books are the best? I mean, we have Boring, we have Allen's, and we have Bird. What are the other books that people can keep and on their shelves in the clinics? Or what you prefer?
More than books at this stage of my practice. So, I mean, I have to divide this into two questions. But if I have to confirm something, I would definitely look at Fataks, and I would look at some good conducted provings. Otto Leeser is very good for organic and inorganic remedies. Catherine Coulter is very good for animal remedies, and in the mineral remedies, Jan Scholten is excellent for the mineral remedies. So it also depends on what we are trying to learn in homeopathy. Farrington, if you want to understand group studies and the concept of group studies, I would recommend Farrington.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you so much. One more question: how to take cases online effectively?
With online, firstly, what helps is if you can build a rapport with the case even before the case starts. So get enough information through email correspondence even prior to the case taking. Have a good online case record form. So if you go to our website, anandawellness.in, it's a free download. Have a look. There's a pediatric case form. There's an adult case form. So I urge the audience to go and have a look at that. If you are able to establish that in advance and do some homework even before the case session starts, then the chances are that when the session starts online, just have enough good engines, and have options, not just Zoom, but also Google Hangouts and other such virtual medias, depending on the country. Some of my patients in Dubai, Middle East, for example, Botim works for them. So you should be aware of what is functional in what country, and then time yourself in such a way that there's good audio and video clarity. So if you have these things in place, it's no different. In fact, it has shown our strength of working from home and still being able to manage successful practice.
Okay, sir. Sir, one more question the viewer has asked. What is the exact physiochemical science behind action of homeopathic medicines? Is homeopathy scientifically based?
This person who has asked is homeopath or layman? Can you inquire?
Sir, his profile shows doctor, the title doctor.
So ask him, no? You are doctor, so we are also doctors. So what doctor is he? What is his name? Ask some background, no? As I said, always ask the more details about the person. Who is the person? If I know who the person is, I can answer him more appropriately based on his qualification and his understanding and depth, and what is the intention of him asking this question. I want to understand that first. So while he does that and he chats, we can attempt another question. We'll come back to this.
Sir, he has answered he's a homeopath only. Dr. Chinmay, he's a homeopath only.
Where does he practice?
Sir, he can only answer this. I can't.
So no, ask him. No, where does he practice? How many years of practice does he have? What is his experience of homeopathy in his practice? I mean, you can ask him that on my behalf.
Hi, Dr. Chinmay, if you can listen to me. Sir is asking where do you practice and since how many years you have practicing. He's saying he wants to understand more about homeopathy. I mean, maybe sir, he's a beginner. That's why he's more towards like what is the scientific and physiochemical functioning of homeopathy, maybe.
What made him take up homeopathy? Ask him.
Dr. Chinmay,
no, it's a good question. See, why I'm asking this is, I was in a seminar in Germany many years ago, and while I was presenting the live case, one particular participant who was a very experienced homeopath, and he said, I don't understand what you're saying. So I said, okay, sir, what don't you understand? He said, how you have come to the remedy. It doesn't make sense, and I don't agree with your analysis. I said, okay, fine, I will try to explain. What don't you agree? No, it's just causing a certain distress in me looking at the proposal of the remedy for this case. So I took the case on a different level and I asked him, when you look at this prescription and you are feeling frustrated as a senior homeopath, what is it doing to you, sir? Please say. So he says, I'm almost feeling as if I'm running out of time. I have to come up with this analysis of the remedy for this child. Everything is bottled up and it's bottled in, and it's almost as if this gas is building up in my stomach and anytime it may explode. Now, from that question of finding my case presentation ridiculous to understanding his phenomena of why he finds it ridiculous to gas build up and something will explode, you can see that his delusion was he's running out of time. Time is very little. There's a presentation going on. Delusion, he is soda water bottle which means soda inside, gas inside, not able to come out, it will explode. Now, if you know this rubric in homeopathy or this symptom, you know it's a case of argentum nitricum. So I clearly asked him, sir, have you ever considered taking a dose of argentum for yourself? He said, I have taken argentum metallicum. I said, no, this is not argentum metallicum. This is argentum nitricum. So more than homeopathy, we have to, like this person who's asking us this question, he may be a genuine, sincere person, but if he is not convinced about the validity and scientific validity of homeopathy, I'm feeling sorry for him, because I don't know why he's in the profession then, no, in the first place. But if his intention is to understand that what are the scientific things done to prove validity of homeopathy, my answer would be go to IIT Mumbai and check the study of nanoparticles.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you can provide that link to him. This is one. There are several others. They will give you, and participate in more homeopathic provings. They will give you homeopathic validity. This is my advice to him. But if he has any more question, he can ask.
Actually, he wrote, sir, people criticize homeopathy, say homeopathy is a pseudoscience and etc. etc. So to counteract such statements, what kind of studies should be done, and means to counteract those people, actually what should be known, and what should be give reference about. I think.
See, पहले तो ये गाना याद आता है अदिति किशोरदा का, कौन सा? कुछ तो लोग कहेंगे, लोगों का काम है कहना, छोड़ो बेकार की बातों को, कहीं बीत न जाए रहना, कुछ तो लोग कहेंगे. So try to understand that there will always be critics. Not just in homeopathy, in every profession, there are critics, but they play an important role. We are not trying to undermine them or their role. In fact, when they are there, we as homeopaths, now that we are talking about homeopathy, learn to be more alert and improve our quality of work. But after having said that, my answer to this person would be is record your cases, document them, put them in, I'm in part of certain peer journals like JESH and Know Homeopathy, Knowledge Homeopathy. So the reason I do that and take time to invest in such esteemed journals is that these are peer review journals. Read good books, document your cases from your own clinical practice, which each one of us should do, so that there are enough cases to highlight the role of homeopathy in all kinds of cases, including advanced pathology. But at this stage, he should participate in more provings. He should read the right kind of books. He should, of course, get a copy of my book if he hasn't got it so far. And he should spend time with difficult cases with more senior homeopaths and refer and join in. It's like a lot of my journey, Aditi, took place not just individually, just listening. I mean, not only as a homeopath, just sitting with my father, who's a pediatrician, and learning pediatrics. Other senior homeopaths, just watching and shadowing them, like Dr. Munish Batra, senior, Dr. Mukesh Batra's father, how he interacts with them socially and also in the clinic. So when you do things like this, or taking difficult cases to them, it requires a certain dropping of ego that, okay, I can't help this case, but doesn't matter. Homeopathy can help. Maybe I cannot help. I have my limitations. So my advice to this youngster would be, take such cases, watch, go and shadow such a case, watch what is happening in the developments, how that homeopath chose that certain remedy and prescribed, or why that certain potency, till finally he is confident enough to prescribe on his own. I would suggest things like this.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. So viewers are saying he is thanking you for the explanation, Dr. Chinmay. And
Okay.
viewers are also saying that you have a lovely voice.
Yeah, that's something that runs in the family, and we love to entertain, to sing, and also when we see a connection, or where sometimes there's a link of how to encourage a person, not necessarily to remedy alone. This has been highlighted, in fact, by my my cousin, who's ex-Navy Commodore, and he wrote a write-up about me, and he mentioned this part that Sunil's one quality besides others is his ability to translate a person's health into music and send something which inspires that person, alleviates his burden just through music. So we know music as therapeutic, and it has a big role in therapy. But there's so many other things like laughter and good food, etc., etc. It's not these auxiliary measures are as important as homeopathic remedies.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Sir, if you like, sir, we can wind up the session.
Yes, I think if everyone's done with all questions, I think we've been able to impress on them certain aspects about medical practice, homeopathic practice, and where this book can play some role in guiding them, mentoring them.
Yes, sir.
And then my suggestion would be after 3 or 4 months, if some of them get a copy, we can again have another session where once they read the book and they have specific questions related to the book, then that would be more productive and fruitful as well.
Okay, sir. So, okay, now I will wind up the session, and thank you, sir, for writing such a great book. It is actually very easy to read the book and understand it and go through your journey, which I mean I could feel that when I was reading the all the the preface, the acknowledgement, and everything. I could see what sir has gone through, what he has experienced. So, sir, thank you again for telling all the viewers about the book, encouraging us to pursue homeopathy, and also telling us that homeopathy has a bright future. So,
Thank
okay,
you.
sir.
Thank you, Aditi, for initiating this. And I wish all the audience all the very best. Thanks for joining. And I hope to see you all again sometime soon.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, viewers. Thank you. Bye, sir.
Bye. Namaskar.